All right, welcome, my friend, to the next episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, where we take a fundamental approach to fitness to give you more power, control, and freedom over your healthy lifestyle. As always, I'm Matt Schifferly, your host for this episode, and you may notice I am in different surroundings today. This is one of the reasons for the different time for the podcast. If you're watching this here, of course, on the YouTube, I am dog sitting. We got a couple of the doggies wandering around in the background there and everything. So that's one of the reasons for the different environment stuff. But on to today's topic. Today's topic is this one I've been wanting to do for quite a while. It's kind of like confessions of a personal trainer. This was inspired by last week when I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. And if you recall from last week's episode, I was talking about how I don't do a lot of these things that he thinks that is necessary to get in shape, the strict dieting and the long, laborious workouts and all these other sorts of things. And it kind of made me realize that a lot of times there's this stigma around us fitness professionals and people who work in gyms and stuff on what we do all day and what our job is like and everything. And it's very different from where I get the reactions from friends and family and stuff. And I wanted to kind of not so much clear the air, but even just to expose what it's really like. Because I've been working as a personal trainer in big box gyms for close to 20 years now. I started off in one of the biggest gym chains in Vermont, the Rackets Edge. And then I moved on to some of the smaller boutique gyms on Church Street. I even managed and ran one of those gyms for a number of years. Then when I came out here to Colorado, in like Gold's Gym, I had a good 5 years that I worked in the Colorado Athletic Club, which is one of the bigger gyms here in Denver. Over 1,000 people came through every day. We had over 30 trainers and coaches on staff at any given time. Celebrities and pro athletes would come through there and stuff when they were in town and things. So that's my experience. And over all that time, it's kind of evened out to a lot of these little things that I'm going to share with you here. Now, of course, naturally, everybody's different. I'm sure lots of people are going to listen to this or watch this and be like, that's not at all what being a trainer is like. And that's not at all what it's like for me and everything. Totally. Absolutely. There's not really an average out there, especially now, because back when I got started, like being a trainer meant you either had your own studio or you worked in a big box gym. And that was it. But now you've got fitness professionals who work in all sorts of different manner of environments, and there are different kinds of gyms, everything from physical therapy and rehab places and athletic training. So are available now that weren't there. But anyway, I digress. Let's just jump right onto it. So first and foremost is just on the business side of things. We trainers typically have it kind of the short end of the stick as far as like compensation for amount of work. I remember one time I was reading a book and it was kind of like how to be like financially independent and well off. And they had a checklist of things like make sure that your profession has these variables to it. And for the love of God, don't do the opposite of these things. And I'm looking at this checklist going, personal training literally has every one of those checked off as far as what you don't want in a career. I was like, I am totally screwed. So first off, you're paid by the hour. So you don't have any salary or anything like that. So you're only paid when you're working. If you're not in front of someone training someone, you're not getting paid, even if you are at the gym. And with that said, you're actually training someone, but it's not like you typically have sessions back to back to back to back to back to back, which means most trainers, or at least in my personal experience when I was training, 12 to 13 hour days were the norm. Almost every day I would show up around 5 or 6 a.m. and get home around 7 p.m. or so. But that was to work 6 to 7 paid hours, because you would work for an hour or two, a couple hours, and then you'd have an hour off in between clients. And then you work an hour and then have like 2 hours off and so on. So it was spread out throughout the day. So you could be at the gym all day long, but only get paid for like 4 or 5 hours. Some of my most frustrating days was when I would literally be at the gym for 10 hours and get paid for 2 of them. And that's one of the reasons why you learn really quick. You bring your laptop, you have other things that you can get done during your time there, if you can. So that's when I would make my videos and I would write my books and everything like that. Compensation is usually pretty low, especially at the beginning end of the spectrum. So I know a lot of times there's this idea that personal trainers make a lot of money because you typically pay a lot of money for personal training. But the trainer, particularly at big box gyms, sees a fraction of that. To put it into perspective, my first job, granted I was low on the totem pole because I was a newbie, personal training sessions were $65 an hour. And out of that, I got 12 before taxes. So once taxes were taken out and stuff like that, I literally made like $8 an hour paying to train people and stuff, where they paid 65, only got 8 of those dollars in compensation. But that was I was just a beginner and stuff. But typically, if you can make 50% of a value for session, that's pretty damn good. Usually it's around 35 to 40% ish. It's just around that range if you're lucky. The gym that I worked at most recently, Color Athletic, more you did, you kind of boosted your way up in the pay scale, and the most I got was 50% of each one. The other things to consider too is no vacations, no time off, and no benefits whatsoever. And again, I had a little bit of a difference with that. I did qualify for very low level like health coverage when I worked at Color Athletic Club, but I had to do so many sessions a week. It was hard to maintain those numbers. Very few people out of our 30 coaches, we had like maybe 4 that would qualify for that health coverage. And even then I would often lose it throughout the year. So I didn't have health coverage continuously. So a lot of times when people are like, well, you do this job because you love it. It's like, well, that's about the only reason to do it, because it doesn't pay well. It doesn't bode well for your schedule. It costs a lot of time. It costs a lot of energy. You have to work when you're sick. You have to work when you're injured. You have to work when you're really not motivated. And it is a job that takes a lot of energy because you got to be that cheerleader. And you can do it and be, hey, it's so good to see you, even though inside you feel like you're the last person I want to see right now. This is the last thing I want to be doing right now. I've got a fever of 101. I really want to be going home and getting some rest. But if I take a day off, I get a pay cut. And speaking of pay cuts, you also get pay cuts when people just don't show up. I would have weeks where, a bug would be going around. So I'd get emails from clients saying like, I'm sick, can't come in this week, or my kid is sick, I can't leave the house or whatever like that. And it's like, okay, in the course of 5 minutes, I've gotten 3 emails, which means I got a 25% reduce in pay for this week. There's nothing you can do about it. So consistency in schedule, consistency in pay. If you like having nice, stable schedules that you can plan your life around and stable pay and everything, you're not going to be a personal trainer. And I know some places they offer salaries and stuff like that, but it's typically not the way to go. All right, we got that out of the way. So compensation stuff, ebbs and flows. That's why a couple of their jobs on the side. That's why we always have working on our side hustles and other supplements and making YouTube videos and things like that. Most trainers don't make enough to support themselves. Most trainers also don't have the time and the energy to even have a family. That's why most of us are single. Of those who are married, very few of us ever have kids because we don't have time and we don't have money. So how are we going to ever have kids? And those I did know who did have kids and families and stuff like that, they weren't the primary breadwinners in the family. Usually it was a husband or wife or some other significant other who made the bulk of the money and paid for most of the utilities and stuff, and that was just side income, so to speak. Now onto the fitness side of things. Okay, so first and foremost, we fully understand the limit of our capabilities as trainers, and it can be very frustrating for us because on one side of the coin, we kind of have to sell ourselves and our services in order for people to buy into it, because we only get paid if we're training. You don't get paid to hang out in the gym all day. You could be at the gym all day long and make butt gifts. So we have to sell training. That's part of our job, and that's part of the work we don't get paid for. You get paid. You have to do a lot of work as a trainer that you don't get any compensation for. Things like prospecting, selling, continuing education. There's typically about 2 to 3 hours a week at least of non-paid work that you have to be doing. But anyway, coming back to the idea of, we understand that when we see you, we have a very finite amount of influence towards your goals, especially weight loss goals. And this is one of the reasons why we trainers sometimes get a little jaded and tired of trying to be more of just weight loss coaches. Because let's be honest, the bulk of people especially around New Year's, they come to us looking for weight loss advice. And we're like, okay, yeah. And some of us take on that mantle. We love being weight loss coaches and things like that. But the fact of the matter is we suck as weight loss coaches because we don't see you often enough. Part of this is the way that the structure is, especially if you're in a system that pays by the session. If you're ever looking at how do I join a gym or how do I join a service that's going to help me lose weight or get goals, you want to find something that has a solid monthly rate for full services. Like, okay, this is how much it is a month to work out here with a coach or a trainer. And we also take care of nutrition, we take care of recovery, and we take care of all these other things. Typically, those are more expensive, like $400 or $500 a month or so. But that's the one you actually want. Because otherwise, you fall into the bag of this is how much it is per session. And what that actually does is it looks kind of like, oh, I can only come to one session a week and that way I'm saving money. Or if I do it every other week, then that's saving me more money. But it actually disincentivizes you from doing what's necessary to get your results. Because the more you come, the better your results are. The more you train with us, the better your results are. But the more you arrive and do the cost is. So you're financially incentivized to not do the things you need to do in order to get the results you need. So it's really kind of a bit of a backwards. That's why you want to go with like a monthly package style plan, because it would happen all the time where, especially at CAC, where it would be say, okay, this is our training packages, and people are like, okay, I'm going to go with like 12 and I'll space it out throughout the year. So it's like one session per month. It's like you're throwing your money away. And I would tell people that it's like, you literally are not going to get what you need with that, because the only time that I have any influence over your health and fitness is when you're in front of me. When you're working out with me. The second you walk out the door, I'm completely powerless. I can't stop you from going and plowing through a case of beer and fast food every single day. Like, I have no power whatsoever over you. So therefore, we know inherently how limited we can actually help someone get in shape. So when people often don't get the results they want, which is more often than not, we're just as far. It really kind of hurts us a little bit when we're like, I don't know what I can possibly do, because you should be seeing me potentially almost every single day. But I know that's a lot of time and a lot of money most people don't have. So we got into this profession because we want to help people get in shape. We want to help people get in better shape and feel better and stuff. But the system doesn't usually allow for that to happen in the most practical way. Let's see, what else can I address here? And ask me questions about this sort of thing too, of course, in the feed. But other things to consider too is we often get lost drinking our own Kool-Aid naturally, where we have our own methods. You know, we have our own exercise programs we like to do, our own nutrition approaches and stuff like that. So be aware that when you go from one trainer to the next, you could be getting completely different advice. Oftentimes I would have clients who would use different trainers at the same gym. They'd be with me for a few weeks and then someone else for a few weeks and someone else. And they just come away going like, you guys don't know what you're talking about, because this guy says to squat this way. This guy says to squat that way. This guy says don't ever squat. And this guy says I should be eating plenty of steak. And this person says meat is bad. And yeah, welcome to our fitness industry. There's no such thing as a solid, consistent answer, even amongst trainers. And I think there's this idea out there that we all get like the trainer handbook or our certifications, and we all look at it and we're like, okay, now that I'm certified, I'm going to train people according to what I learned in the certification. Think of it like your driver's test, right? Who out there took driver's ed, got their driving license, and like, I'm going to drive exactly the same way as I drove in driver's ed. And when I was taking my driver's test, that's how I'm going to drive when I'm on my own or with my friends. Of course not. Nobody ever does that. And it's the same thing in training as well. We get our certifications and we're like, okay, got my certification, book goes on the shelf. I'm not going to look at that ever again. And now I'm going to train how I want to train, kind of thing. And that's not inherently a bad thing, because we all develop our own styles. We all develop our own approaches to things. Of course, I went more the calisthenics route. I did kettlebell focus training for quite a while as well. Some people go bodybuilding, powerlifting, or what have you. That's a good thing. But if you're looking for solid, consistent answers and information from one trainer to the next, you're not going to get it, even if we all have the same certification. And to be perfectly honest, those certifications, they are good. They are certainly necessary, but they really don't impact the quality of the trainer to that much of a degree. I mean, to a large part, no one's ever asked me for my certification credentials except for my employers when they're hiring me and they just want that for insurance purposes. I've never had a client ask me if I'm certified. Never in any interest in what my certifications are, unless they were interested in something specific. Like that's where the real bulk of your expertise comes in, is these specific and specialized certifications. So if someone, for example, was into Olympic lifting, and someone's like, yes, I have so-and-so certifications and credentials in Olympic lifting, that would be something that would be beneficial to that. They'd be like, oh, okay, then I want to train with that kind of trainer. But for the most part, most people don't care. They don't care whatsoever. It's like, I'm certified in NSCM and I've got 5 master's degrees and stuff. And they're like, I don't care. How do you help me lose weight? And the last thing to note too, and I really hope this is a little different, but back in the day, 20 some years ago and stuff, it was like, I would get these certifications and I always felt so frustrated because I felt like none of them ever told me anything that actually helped people. Because I'd be like, okay, I learned all about the nervous system and all about the endocrine system and all these sorts of things. Nothing about how to help Mrs. Smith lose weight for her wedding, or nothing about how do you train somebody who's frustrated with a weight gaining plateau, or someone who wants to improve muscle tone or whatever. Like none of that was ever in those certifications. I talked with several friends of mine who were like exercise science majors in college, because I studied Japanese and nutrition and stuff. And I was like, so you learned this stuff in college? And they're like, we got through college, we didn't know anything about how to help someone get in shape. Nothing we learned at all in 4 years taught us how to work someone out in a gym. And I really hope that's no longer the case. I'm sure things are different in many areas because things are always changing and evolving. But I remember when I got my certifications, my initial certifications, I went out on the floor at the gym and I was like, I literally have no freaking clue what the hell I'm doing. Someone asked me questions like, okay, so if I want to work out to run a marathon, how would I do that? And I'd be like, I have no idea whatsoever. Like nothing was, there's no how to train for a marathon in the handbook, which was like that thick, right? So this pullback, it's not me bitching about personal training. It's not about not working or anything like that. It's more about just recognizing that the profession of coaching and training and stuff, it has a lot of cracks that we need to mend. And it has a lot of areas where we shouldn't necessarily be like super like a critic, like a cynic about it, like a training doesn't work or anything, but bring an air of skepticism to it. Like we are not in charge. I always told people whenever I met them for the first time, I was like, rule number 1, I'm not in charge. You are. Like everything I give you, every exercise, every piece of advice, I'm kind of guessing at. I'm just pulling it out of thin air. It's no more accurate to what you need than a Google search. But the more information you give me about how things feel and how things are going and how well you can address things, that's the information that I'm going to go and make real adjustments to. And that's the stuff that's going to be more important. So if you ever do have trainers or coaches that you're employing, don't be quiet. The more information you tell them, the better, bottom line, because we live off of your feedback. So there you go, a little bit of a pull behind the curtain, peek behind the curtain of the personal training profession. Again, my experience there, but a lot of it is, again, lots of other trainers that I worked with and stuff, kind of the average point of view. But let's get to some questions on here with some of the things that you have for me I can help you with. Piyush coming on, thank you very much. Hey, Matt, I got my parents to start exercising, but my father is having problems in pulling motions. Whenever he pulls, his scapula retracts, but his shoulders shrug up. Any advice? Oh yeah, very common. Very common, especially because upper traps are typically very dominant in a lot of individuals. So I'm also guessing maybe your father has stiff neck sometimes on a stressful day at work, maybe some tension headaches kind of thing. So our traps typically are one of those things that people either don't use them enough or they overuse them and they're up like that. So what he needs to do is get his lats engaged more and some of those scapular depression muscles going on, the lower laps and stuff particularly. So things like holding, pushing the arm straight down on like a couple of benches or rings can go very well. And also it's literally just trying to keep the shoulders down. Having a practice of rolling the shoulders down and back. This exercise I always give people a million times a day, where you're clasping your hands back and you're pushing down and back and squeezing your hands together. Give him that kind of thing. Anything that just makes him work to push his shoulders down and back is going to be on the right track. But again, it's a habitual thing. So he may not even be aware he's doing this. So he has to think and concentrate as much as possible every time he's doing pulling. Shoulders down, shoulders down, shoulders down. Try. He may not get it for a week, may not get it for several weeks, maybe even several months, but he has to keep focusing on that and trying. And eventually it will take and become effective. Very good. And he'll get a hell of a lot stronger from it as well. Otto coming in hot. Hey, Matt, I found that full body workout twice a week suits me the best. Very good. For numerous reasons. Any advice about programming, selecting exercise, etc. for training 2 times a week? Whatever you want there, it really would work. You could do it in a number of ways, but as you said, it's full push, pull, squat, flexion, extension, lateral. Those are your primary fundamental movement pattern, your tension chain. So make sure if you're just getting that to some degree, you've got it covered. It's not very complicated. People way overthink workout programming sometimes. They're like, okay, I've got to have this very special combination and I got to get it dialed in specifically perfect. Most exercise programming, when I'm a trainer and I'm working with people to dial in their workouts, most of the advice I give them is just how do we just make it work so you can stick to it? Like, we're not trying to base things off of how many periodization cycles and sets and reps and everything like that. It's just, what do we got to do for you to stick with the workout? The same with nutrition advice too. When I'm working with people on their diet and their nutrition and stuff, I'm just trying to get something they can stick with. If you're sticking to it, you've already got 80% of it right there. That's it. If you stick to it, a big chunk of what you need to make, you've got it covered. Check off that box. You're good. Then it's just a matter of progression and just how do you do things better? And that's a matter of learning and assessing what you're doing. Okay, this is how I'm doing push-ups. What do I do to make them better? Like with rows, okay, my shoulders are shrugging up. I got to try to keep them down. Those are the things that actually produce the results. So step 1 is you got to just make changes in any way, shape, and form so you can be consistent. Sounds like you've got it. And then it's just a matter of now make things better so you improve your proficiency in those fundamental movement patterns. That's literally all you need. That's literally all most people need with their workouts is how do you get consistent and how do you progress what you're already doing? That's it. It is hot out here today, folks. It is like 90, 95 here. Doggies are puddles behind me. I don't know if you can quite see the Bernese Mountain Dog behind me, but it's just like boom, puddle of fur on the deck behind me. All right, Xander coming in. How long does it take to learn how to do a 1-arm pull-up, especially if you can do around 8 pull-ups right now? Damned if I know. There is no timeline. There is no time. I mean, hell, some people are like, what's a 1-arm pull-up? You pull up with 1 arm. Oh, you mean this? Oh, I never did that before. Oh, okay. Some people are like that. You just want to punch them in the face, like, screw you. And other people have worked their entire lifetime and never achieve it. So there is no timeline for a particular result. You'll get there when you get there kind of thing. So if you've got, and I mean, there's a million things you have to address. There's stability, there's tension control, there's joint integrity. There's a million things. It's impossible to say. You get there when you get there, my friend. So as always, though, have a goal, but focus on progression. Like you've got your 8 pull-ups there. Outstanding. Now do 9. People ask me all the time, what do I need to do to get stronger? What do I need to do to build muscle? What do I need to do to be better? It's like, well, what can you do now? 8 pull-ups. Okay, 9. What if I said 9? I do 10 kind of thing. Is whatever the next level is. Next level. Keep looking for that 1% better. And eventually you'll just cross that line where you're like, oh, I can do a 1-arm pull-up right now because you progress. I mean, some people, they just do the same pull-up and they just do it over and over and over and over and they get really good at it. And then they can just, hey, let me try this. Hey, look, I got it. It happens. But of course, a lot more people are progression about it. So they start working with their hands closer and nice and tight. And then they start working 1 arm out. So they're putting more weight on 1 arm and you can build up that way. But yeah, like I said, you get there when you get there. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process. Every ounce of progression is a reward in and of itself. Asking, are you able to do 1-arm handstand push-ups? Not even close. I can't even do a handstand push-up. Largely because those shoulders, those were always my my bugaboo, finally have, and this is a great example. Like I finally have the stability in my shoulder where I can pretty much do anything I want with it without pain. Okay. It's probably been about a 10-year journey to that level. Yeah, it'll probably take me about 10 years. So if you can do stuff without shoulder pain, you're already at 10 years ahead of me from where I was. So that's the thing, is sometimes people will have something that's like, yep, you just set yourself back 5 years or maybe 5 weeks. I don't know. No, there is no guaranteed timeline. There's no regular timeline for these sorts of things because we all start off in different positions. But the general gist though is the further you want to go, and the further you are behind, the more time it's going to take you there to get there, that sort of thing. Jay Cooper, hey Matt, is a little bit of scapular winging normal for push-ups, push chain exercises, or does that mean there is a lack of purposeful protraction, the scapula at the top of the rep? It could be a little bit of both there kind of thing. I mean, everybody's built a little bit differently. Your shoulder blades just could be in a certain position, just how your body is built and stuff. But you do want to minimize it as much as possible. I would look at the muscles in the back of your shoulder. I just put a video up on the R.D.P YouTube channel on emphasizing a lot of tension in the infraspinatus muscle. It's an external rotator right behind your shoulder. That's another one that people often neglect when it comes to that scapular winging. A lot of your scapular winging isn't just the muscles that control your scapula, it's also the ones in the arm. Because if your arm is internally rotated, that's in turn putting torque on that scapula to wing and press upwards a little bit. So that's a place that I would look to, is the muscles behind the shoulder. Check out that video. It's like the last one or the second to last one that I posted on the YouTube channel. Yeah, Felix coming on. How's it going, Felix? Hey, Matt, liking the outdoor patio. Thank you very much. It's not my house. Of course, I'm dog sitting, but it is very nice out here in the shade. I think I developed a painful wrist doing close push-ups on my palms. Any advice at all? Yeah, well, go wider. See if that helps, of course. The big mistake that people make with close grip stuff, like close grip pulls and push, is they're like, okay, I'm here, and now the next step is here. It's like, there's a lot of variations in between there you can work with. So me personally, like, this to me is like my natural place where I feel most comfortable. So I still have some width there. So do the same thing. Like, it doesn't have to be touching. It doesn't have to be like a diamond or anything. Like, if you just naturally feel like you go a little wider, then do that. And again, those muscles behind the shoulder, that plays a huge role, because if you've got too much internal rotation and you're not packing those shoulders down, you're going to have so much more stress on those wrists. See, this is really awkward angle for my wrist to be versus here. Like, my wrists work very well this way. They don't work so much that way. I mean, these are the kind of joint locks we use in the martial arts to hurt people's wrists. So you want to stay away from those angles as much as possible. Mark, good question here. Are micro workouts, are micro cardio workouts, excuse me, a thing? Is there a minimum duration needed for fitness? Very good question. Yeah, they certainly are a thing, because I think a lot of people, they get lost in thinking cardio has to be very long duration sort of thing. But cardio is just like strength training. You're playing around with the variables of time and intensity. So if you go short, you can go hard. That's a good thing. If you're like, I'm going to run a 10K, you're not going to have intensity with that. You have to pace yourself. You cannot sprint a 10K. So micro cardio workouts are things that are short duration that you can go really hard with. So I'm thinking things like, take a timer for a minute and do something that wins you out pretty quick. So kettlebell snatches, for example, sandbag, clean, and press. Hill sprints. My favorite is always just punching bag work. That's what our conditioning was in Taekwondo when we were getting ready for a tournament. We'd bring out all the hanging bags, and the instructor would be like, 90 seconds, go. And we just go ham on these punching bags for 90 seconds and just gas us out. We'd be exhausted. He's like, all right, 1 minute rest, and we recover. And it's like, okay, next one, go. We do like 2 or 3 rounds, and that was our cardio. And we were very well conditioned for the coming tournament. Worked great. So it's all down again in time intensity. If you want to do it short, great, but do it hard. Bring something that's going to gas you out pretty darn quick. Fantastic. Good question. And it's a big thing that I'm a big fan of, because you asked for general fitness. General fitness, I mean, there's benefits to going long, there's benefits to going short, but typically for most people, intensity tends to be the bigger return on investment. when you focus a little bit more on the intensity side of the scale, you generally get more benefit from higher intensity versus higher duration. Not always, but generally. That was the whole Tabata thing, right? The Mr. Tabata over in Japan, that was his whole deal, was can, I think it was speed skaters, get the same level or more of fitness in 4 minutes as someone who's speed skating for half an hour. Instead of just doing skating for half an hour pretty hard, is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for 8 rounds, which is 4 minutes. And at the end of that, the short and intense group had better conditioning and higher like VO2 max and other associated quantifiable measures than the longer duration. So intensity certainly has a ton of improvements with that as well. Drop weight daddy Michael's in the house. So good to see you, Michael. I think you asked this question earlier and I neglected to get to it. I'm sorry about that, but asking what would you suggest for someone for an isometric hold time frame? Again, time and intensity. You can go short and hard or long and pace yourself a little bit. So what is prudent for your goals? Do you want more intensity? Typically the answer is yes, go short. So in the Dragon Door isometric manual, that's holding for like 6 seconds. An isometric all-out hold for 6 seconds seems to be a good sweet spot to shoot for. But if you're going for more duration, 20 to 30 seconds tends to be a good way to go about it as well. So I'll set the ISO chain up for like 20 beeps or 30 beeps or so, and I'll just hold something that I know I can do pretty well. It's a good way to kind of really fatigue the muscle and dial in some of that neuromuscular proficiency and that mind-muscle connection. But isometrics almost exclusively I use for just all-out intensity. So 6 seconds, maybe 10. 10 is like a long time for a lot of those exercises. Azrael, fantastic. I made a decision to work out every day for the rest of my life. Fantastic, man. That's my training philosophy. Every day I train. I train every single day. No days off and stuff. But keep in mind that I use the term training to denote any time you're using your body purposefully. I mean, hell, I can just, flex my wrist, open, flex, wrist. Yeah. Okay, good. I've trained. Like I just trained my wrist, my flexors and extensors. Today, when I was out here on the porch, early in the morning, I'm drinking my tea. I was standing and doing leg circles to loosen up my hips. My left hip was bothering me. I don't know why. It's just like, left hip's a little wonky today. So I stood on one side and I did knee circles. Nothing too hard, but it loosened up my hips and it really helped me stabilize and stuff because you have to stabilize with that. I trained this morning. I worked out my hips this morning. Like 10 seconds kind of thing. Training every day, absolutely. And then it's just a matter of time and intensity. Are you going long? Are you going intense? Or some variation between the two? Yeah, Pilly Boy, excuse me. Got the screen name wrong. Are you filming this on a patio? Potato. On a serious note, I really appreciate your work. Thank you very much, Pilly. Really do appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, this is a patio. This is actually a backyard here in Denver. This is kind of the way a lot of houses, the suburbs here in Denver were built like in the 50s and 60s, sort of that post-World War II baby boomer kind of generation when a lot of houses just sprung right on up. So a lot of the houses are fairly small houses, but they've got a nice little backyard, nice patio, got a garage and stuff. Typical, backyard barbecue kind of homes and stuff. They're very nice. They're very nice. I hope to have a place like this someday. That would be pretty good. And dogs seem to like it here. I don't know if you can quite see. Let me see if I can't get an image. They're puddles right now. There they are. So the golden retriever is Winston, and the Bernese mountain dog, that is Charlie. Charlie, and the little terrier here, this is Boo Boo, but he's just kind of shaking there. Looks like he wants to get up on the step. Hang on one second. Come here, Boo Boo. Let's say hi to the folks. See, this is Boo Boo. He runs the show here too. He's the killer. He is the killer to the core. Every time I see these dogs, I'm reminded of a physical therapist friend of mine said, muscles are like dogs. I was like, really? How so? She's like, the big ones that are strong They don't make any noise. They're not like this all the time. So she was one of the first ones who ever taught me, like, if you want to be limber and you want to be resilient, big and strong is the way to go, not small and weak. Because when a muscle is deconditioned and small and weak, it's like this all the time, right? But when it's big and strong, like Charlie over here, it's just like, I can handle anything, throw it at me, I don't care kind of deal. So this is a good analogy here, and we got it right here. All right, Wayne's, when should you progress to weighted, considering you can't progress to high rep ranges, body weight, especially with pull-ups? Very good. I almost thought of making that the topic of today's podcast. Maybe I'll address that more in detail next podcast because it's very important. But my general rule of thumb is progress whenever you like to, whenever you can. It's like when someone comes up to me like, I think I can do weighted pull-ups. Hell, let's go. Let's just see what happens kind of thing. I won't even look at their pull-up. It's like, here, put on this weight vest, 20 pounds, let's go. Because a lot of this stuff, like, what's the worst that can happen? You probably just be like, okay, no. It's kind of hard to injure yourself with these kinds of exercises. It could certainly be possible. There's no such thing as a completely safe exercise, but a lot of times if the risk is low, I say go for it, and you'll learn real quick, what's going on. And also keep in mind that when it comes to that time and intensity balance, you have to keep that kind of in perspective. Like, I'm not a big fan of these sort of progression standards that everybody says apply to everyone. Like in combat conditioning, some of those repetition standards are pretty high, like do 30 recline rows. Okay. And he has good reason for that, because it's like you want to be able to get that motion really good. You want to be proficient at it. But if you came to me and you're like, I just care about strength, that's all I care. I just want to get stronger, that's all I care. I'm like, you're never doing anything more than 8 reps. So it's like, I got 8 pull-ups consistently for like several sets. I'd like, great, let's add weight. But if you came to me and you were like, okay, I really want endurance, and like, let's not add weight until you're doing 15 or so on. So it really kind of depends on what you're going after and stuff, but go for it. But always remember that the purpose of weighted calisthenics is to challenge your technique. You're not going to get stronger because you got a weight vest on, or you've got 20 pounds and you're doing pull-ups. That's not going to get you stronger. You get stronger because you're trying to do better pull-ups. So when you put that dumbbell on a belt and you say, okay, I can get my chest to the bar for 8 pull-ups, it's like, good, let's see if you can do that with this dumbbell. It's not, let's do pull-ups with this, your form sucks, but the dumbbell's still going to make you stronger. It's, can you do it well, because that dumbbell's challenging your technique. All right, I think I covered what I would have said anyway in the podcast anyway, so hopefully that helps. All right. Next question coming on. Hey, I work full-time, very physical chainsaw and tree plant. Oh my gosh, that is physical work. But would like to do structured workouts to target rock climbing strength. Is there a good without burnout? Absolutely. So you probably need a lot less than you realize. It's funny you guys are asking me these questions, because this was another topic I was considering talking about today, is how to combine calisthenics with martial arts, or calisthenics with weight training, combine it with a bunch of other things. So you probably need a lot less than you realize. A couple times a week, 2, maybe 3 sets of something that's going to challenge your grip and something that's going to engage your pull chain. That's probably about all you need, in all honesty. And if for that specifically, for the climbing work, is challenge your grip, like hang from some towels, or you're in the field there, you're like, I got a big tree that I can grab onto, I'm going to hold this limb for 30 seconds or so. You could probably get a little bit of your training just in the field there with the work that you're already doing. Anything that challenges your grip and challenges your pull chain, that's what you want to be doing. So I would say look for those opportunities in work, and that's probably going to take care of you. And beyond that, I would say just make sure, if you want to address your push chain, your squat chain, and your extension chain kind of thing, again, couple sets, couple times a week, doesn't take a whole lot. We're not doing this because we want to be the world's best push-up expert. We're trying to be able to, squat 500 pounds. We're just trying to do enough to supplement what you're already doing. So that's the biggest mistake people make when they've got these high labor jobs like you have and stuff. You spend a lot of time and a lot of energy in other areas. And then someone's like, great, you want to get in shape? Here's more workouts that are going to take a ton of time and a ton of energy that you don't have. So get whatever you can now. If you literally come to me and you're like, I can do 3 sets of push-ups throughout the week, I'm like, great, awesome, do that. Because it's not going to take that much to create a stimulus. You can create a stimulus in a matter of seconds. That's the whole point of my micro workouts book, is when you know what kind of stimulus you're trying to create, you can create it in a matter of seconds, in a complete minutes. You don't need this big, huge, drawn out workout all the time. If you can, that's great, but you don't need $1 million Bugatti sports car to drive to work in the morning. If you're like, I've got $5,000, I'm like, hey, I got a used Kia here that you can use. Will it get me to work? Yes, good. It still gets the job done. So look for those opportunities to challenge your grip, challenge your pull chain in the field, or a little bit each week. And like I said, just a few sets a week is probably all you really need. Rized, coming on. I'm 17 and I'm starting to lose weight by dieting and doing 2 HIIT routines a day, 20 minutes each. Pull-ups, dips, abs, very good. So is that enough to lose weight? I'm aiming for 15 kilograms in 3 months. Damned if I know. No possible way to know. No possible way to know, because your weight, the management of your body weight, is of course down to caloric balance. So your HIIT workouts, right, is something that is influencing your total caloric expenditure, which is also influenced by your metabolic rate and to a certain degree your expenditure from food. So what you're doing isn't telling you to lose weight. It's just saying burn some calories, which is great. That's very good. But there's no such thing as weight loss exercise, because all you're doing is burning calories, and no one lost weight by burning calories. You lose weight by burning calories relative to the calories you're consuming. So you're bringing your calories down through the diet. Yeah, so you're doing that. But also keep in mind that you're also going to have adaptations to what you're doing. So sooner or later, it's going to stop working. You know, everybody comes to me and they're like, I was doing this diet, I was doing this workout, I was losing weight, and then it stopped losing weight. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. That's always what happens. You're supposed to stop losing weight because your body's always trying to search for homeostasis. So what you're doing now, rule number 1, if you're doing something and it's working, stay on it. Keep going. You know, rule number 1 of a good game plan, don't mess with the game plan. You're going to get there when you get there. Again, same thing with weight loss. I was talking to a guy the other day who lost 85 pounds in 3 months. I know other people who've trained for years and have tried to lose weight and they haven't lost 85 pounds in years. So there's no timeline for this. You're going to get there when you get there, if you can get there. So if what you're doing now is working, stay on it. And when things start to plateau a little bit, then we can address that. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything's backwards or wrong. Hit me up, DM me on the Red Delta Project Instagram when you do that, and we can continue helping you there. But right now, if that's going, great. Keep on going. All right, a couple more questions real quick here. Then I got to get going here and take the doggies for a walk. Hey, Matt, any tips to deal with cravings during a deficit? Yeah, eat the damn food. That's what I would do. If I want peanut butter, I eat damn peanut butter. If I want chocolate, I eat chocolate. But monitor how much you're getting. Everything about diet is just about portion control. That's all it boils down to. How much of something are you consuming, sort of thing. So if you're consuming, if you have a craving for something, get it. But how little can you do to satisfy that craving? That's the challenge. That's what you want to do. You know, now for me, like, I like chocolate quite a bit. So I get some of those Ghirardelli chocolate squares, a square, and I'm like, good, I got my chocolate. I'm a happy guy, right? How little can you get to satisfy the craving? Because if you don't satisfy it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually that's when people start plowing through pints of Ben & Jerry's and stuff like that. Not that I didn't do that the other day, but that's just because I really like Ben & Jerry's. But that's the best way. A lot of people are like, oh, I eat this thing when I want X. I eat this other thing instead, and it's sort of kind of as good. No, don't do cheap food knockoffs, right? If you want Gucci handbags, buy Gucci handbags. Don't cheap out. Don't go with cheap knockoffs. If you want, you know, Rogue exercise equipment or Dragon Door kettlebells, get Dragon Door kettlebells. Lesson I learned the hard way. When you cheap out and you try and find some cheap substitute, you always end up regretting it. It actually ends up costing you more in the long run. All right. One more. What the hell? Real quick. Hey, Matt, is there a way to improve your muscle inversion? I mean, not for the mind-muscle connection, which I understand is all in the brain, in the nervous system, don't forget that, but the actual nerves to make a connection more powerful. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on with the mind-muscle connection. I know a lot of times we think, mind-muscle connection and tension control is about this woo-woo thing, it's in the brain, but don't quote me on it because I haven't gotten full confirmation on this, but I am reasonably sure that when you're improving those things, you are literally improving the structure of your nervous system. Like when your muscles get stronger, the muscle tissue changes. I'm pretty sure when you improve that mind-muscle connection, you're actually making your nervous system itself better and stronger. I'm not entirely sure. I should do more research on that, but I would bet money that's what's happening, that the synapses and the structures of your nerve cells are actually improving with that. I would be pretty sure that would be the case. So yeah, improving that tension control, isometrics, mind-muscle connection, all that sort of thing. That's the way you can do that. All right, everybody, I'm going to take the doggies for a walk. Thank you very much for coming on. As always, you can listen to the introductory portion of these audios on the Red Delta Project audio podcast directories, all that. Links down below to any references like the micro workouts book, grind style calisthenics, isometrics, and other things that help to support this channel. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support all these years. It's greatly appreciated. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's good karma for you. And I will talk to you next week. Till then, be fit and live free.